Hey guys, Jamey Jordan here, and I want to take a second and teach you guys how to lay out pleats. I got two different ways I'm going to show you today. I've got the easy quick way and the hard way. So we're going to take a second, lay out all the artwork on the panel, and get to rolling here. All right, so what we have here is a 16 by 12 piece of aluminum. This is 0.63 thick and it's 50/52. So what we're going to do first is we're going to lay out the outside border all the way around, a 1-inch strip and then a 1 3/4 inch strip. That's going to give us our border. And then the next thing we'll do is draw in 2 by 3 rectangle right in the middle. And then we're going to cross over our lines, and then that's going to give us our pleats. So first things first, we're going to use our little layout tool and we just kind of slide it up against the edge like this. And then we're going to start here and start working in a border. So I always border all my panels. I think it finishes it off nicely, and it also gives you a chance to kind of lock in the bead rolling on the inside in case you get a little aggressive with it and it starts to get a little warpage. So now that we've used our 1 inch, what we're going to do now is take the 1 3/4 inch strip, lay it against the edge, and that'll help us lay out our 1 3/4 inch border. So now that we have our 1 inch and our 1 3/4 inch, that's left us a 3/4 inch square inside here, or rectangle. And that rectangle is now going to form the border that we're going to use. And so doing that is going to keep everything framed inside of the panel. It also strengthens it all the way around and keeps the panel from twisting and warping as much. So the next step will be to lay out our 2 by 3 rectangle right in the middle. And then after that, we'll cross it out and get our pleats laid out. So now that we've got our 2 by 3 rectangle in the middle, this is going to allow us to lay out our pleats and make sure that the pleats end perfectly on both sides, top and bottom as well. So to do that, you find your square in the middle, and then you just simply take your line and lay it out in between the gaps. So from that point to this point, I'm going to start all the way down here in the bottom, and I'm going to pull all the way across. So after you get the inside line there, you can then move your hand around to here and then mark the other side. So these pleats are going to be 1 3/4 inch. This is 1 3/4 inch pleat right here. And so as I move down, I can continually draw these out, and they'll be 1 3/4. The reason that you want to use the 2 by 3 rectangle in the middle is, say this was a curvy edge, or this had some weird shape, wavy shape, or you're doing a door panel or something that's got a weird curve to it, and you want to keep the pleats consistent. So if you just go corner to corner, you're not going to get that. So the easiest way to do that and make sure it dies out in the center is to find your center and draw yourself out, like I said, a 2 by 3 rectangle, and let your piece cross over as it goes. And if it goes that way, then you'll go this way, same way, and you'll start to see your diamonds start to show up. So we'll finish it off right here. I'll put this line here and add a few more, and then we should be good to go. Here's a tip. So if you're laying out pleats and you find yourself in a situation where you're questioning whether or not it's going to look right if you add this extra pleat, here we're very fortunate to when we get to the end, there's not a lot of extra room right there to add another pleat. But let's say it ended somewhere right in here. And if you're within an inch or inch and a half away from this edge, I recommend you not adding that pleat. I say add it afterwards, after you've cleaned your panel and look at it, and if at that point you've decided you want to add it, then go for it. But a lot of times if you put just a little pleat right here in the corner, all it's going to do is just look messy and dirty. You can also solve that problem if you have a pleat that winds up in a corner by radiusing these corners to hide that as well. Since I'm going to show you two different methods, I repeat all the previous steps and lay out a second panel. All right, so the next step, what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this tipping die on top and our solid roll on the bottom. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna start up here at the top and we're gonna start running our bead rolls. The key is to make sure that you have all the weight of the panel on the inside, so that way whatever you're rolling starts out fresh going this way. So if it does curl up, it's gonna curl this way as it goes. But remember, if it does start to curl, you're gonna bend it over your knee. All right, so first step is to kind of get close to your line, but not all the way on your line as you're doing it. Find you a good pressure that you're happy with. You feel the pressure there. I think I'm going to go one turn, and then we're going to run every single line the same way. All right, so what we're gonna do is start right up here in this corner, but we're not gonna get all the way on the line. We're gonna pull back some, about 1/4 of an inch or so, and then we're gonna start our bead roll line off our border edge. And so as I go, I feel pressure here, and then I'm gonna add a little bit, maybe around a little bit more, all the way on. And then just follow the line straight through the center point of the die, all the way across the panel. Stopping a little bit short, same way we started. All right, so each time we make a bead roll line, it's carving in and making a groove in there. So each groove is causing this panel to want to taco up or bend a little bit. So to counteract that, we use our knee to kind of straighten it out and make sure that we keep this panel going straight as we go, and we don't try to chase after it afterwards. All right, now that we have all these lines bead rolled, we're going to go ahead and cross over these lines to create the pleats. So pulling it in, doing the same way, starting at the top, keeping the weight of the panel on the inside, and repeat. All right, now that we've got all the pleating done with the tipping die in the lower groove, the next step will be to take the stencil rolls and put our border on the outside all the way around, starting with the inside and then the outside. And then we're gonna pop it up, and you're gonna see a nice little ridge form all the way around here. And when we're doing that, we're gonna make one pass with the offset set in the standard position, and then we'll change the offset on the rolls over here using the adjustable collar to help bring up this border and make it more pronounced. All right, so we got our lower die on, and the next step is going to be to take our upper collar and to adjust these dies to the offset that I think that it should be. Now, I'm going to set these up about 1/8 of an inch apart for the first run, and then after that, we'll loosen the bolt, adjust the collar again, and get a little bit more volume out of it. for the first run, about an 1/8 inch gap. The second run, about 3/8 of an inch gap. And then the first spot I'm going to start is up here in the corner, and for doing so, I'm going to pull it in and kind of line it up right here. So keeping in mind that everything on the outside of this bead roll die at the moment is going to be popping up, and this die is going to be shoving down. So if I want the ridge to pop up all the way around, I have to set it up just like this. And I'll start in this top corner, come my way, and just continue all the way around. Now whenever you're doing these corners, you need to make sure that you always push all the way up into the inside of an inside corner. All right, we find our pressure, starts about right here. We'll add about a round and then go for it. Rotate the panel and starting in the corner again. Now that we got all the inside lines done, we're going to move on to the outside. And to do that, keeping in mind everything on the outside of this die is coming up, we'll start out here on this outside edge, on the corner in the top. But we're going to start short about 1/4 of an inch off the edge, so that way our bead roll lines don't overlap each other when we do our step rolls here. Yeah, so on this one, everything to the outside of this die is coming up. So if I want this ridge to come up, I have to keep it on the outside over here. So usually I would start and try to keep everything to the inside, but in this case, everything has to stay on the outside edge if I want this outside ridge. Now, if I wanted to flip the dies around, I could, and I could do the same thing by moving the dies to the inside and keeping in line like we have been. But instead of adjusting my dies, I just run the panel to the outside like this. And you should be able to see that bead roll pop up as we go. Okay, now that we've done the inside border and the outside border, the next step will be to adjust the collars. So what we're going to do is loosen this up, and we're going to come in about 1/8 of an inch which opens up that gap to around 1/4. Push the die in, tighten it back down, and repeat. So starting over like we did before, we'll move to the inside corner. Our pressure point at the beginning is going to change just a little bit to somewhere over here now because we have more gap in between the rolls. So adding another round of pressure, we start again. Obviously we already have a border here, but what we're doing with this second pass is coming back and really making this border stand up and pop. It's going to give you more definition around the border, and by doing it in multiple steps, you're less likely to warp up the panel as you're rolling it. So just making sure that everything stays straight, which it is. Just kind of taking a second to look at it, and that's key to bead rolling, is always pulling it out. Once you do a little rolling and you get a few things happening in there, it's good to just pull it out, take a look and see what you got. See if you need to do some adjustments, see if everything's starting to look like you want it to, recognize some spots that you might want to fix, and then start readjusting how you want to do it. The next step will be to go in and add this outside border, and that's what we're going to do next. Repeating what we did before, starting in this corner. We're going to start right up here, and we're going to go again. Well, all right, now that we've done all the pleating on the inside with the tipping die and the universal groove, we've used the stencil rolls to make an initial pass all the way around the inside and outside border with about 1/8 of an inch gap. Then we changed the offset between the dies, set it to about 1/4 of an inch gap, and ran it all over again on the inside border and the outside border. And there you go. We've got a nice finished panel, stayed straight and flat the whole time. And hopefully, if you take this time and go slow and be patient with it, it'll work out the same for you. Okay, well that was the easy way. So now that we've gone over this, I want to show you a little bit different way to do it that'll bring a little bit more action to the panel, and it's a little bit longer, a little bit more difficult, but I like it a lot better. Okay, here's my favorite way to bead roll pleats. So what I like to do is take my stencil rolls, set them about 1/8 of an inch apart, and what I do is I'm going to go over every line twice. So I'm going to bead roll both sides. So when we did it the quick and easy way, we only just ran it one time. So with this way, we're going to bead roll it once on this side and then once on this side. Then we're going to open our gap again, and then we're going to repeat the whole process, which takes a lot longer, but it gives you a really neat effect. So starting with that, we're going to just start up here in this corner, very similar to what we did with the other way. Find some pressure that we like right there, and then we're going to add our pressure in and make our first run. Then we're just going to keep going in this one direction all the way across the panel until we get them all rolled. All right. So now that we've got all the lines bead rolled to one side, we're going to take and spin this around. Then we're going to bead roll the other side. So this side's already rolled up, and now we're going to go to this direction, which is going to create the V pattern that's going to create the pleats. So on the first panel, we did every line one time. And on this one, we're going to do every line twice. Actually 4 times, because we're going to open up the gap a little bit and run it again for our second pass when we do our border. Okay, now that we've got every one of the lines bead roll going this direction on both sides of the line, we'll turn the panel, start again like we did, and just repeat. So we're just repeating the same process here, running over each line twice. Once inside, then spin the panel, and once outside. If you get lost, just take a look at your panel and see what metal still needs to be moved. Okay, so now we've got all the pleats done. We've rolled on both sides of the line to create the nice little groove that we were looking for. So the next step will be to start up here in the front, and we're going to make sure that everything to the outside is going to be coming up just like we did before. And we're going to add our border. And we're going to use roughly the same amount of pressure as we did throughout the pleats. So starting a little bit shy of our line on the corner, and then we go. All right, now that we finished the inside border, what we're going to do is we're going to start on this outside edge and finish it up as well. We've done all the pleats, we've rolled everything once, and now what we're going to do is open up the gap and we're going to run it again. But the gap is going to be, instead of 1/8 of an inch like the first pass, it's going to be opened up to around 1/4 of an inch for the second pass. And then we'll put a little bit more pressure in there and we'll watch this thing pop up. So this is why it takes a little bit longer, because you're doing twice the work, but it's a completely different effect, and I think it's a little bit cleaner, a little bit nicer, but it doesn't mean that the other way is wrong, it's just another option. And the neat thing is you can keep going over this way too. So, and you could go back over the other one with a stencil roll if you wanted. But with this way, you can continually go back over it. I could do a 3rd pass or even a 4th pass and continually opening up the gaps and getting more volume out of each pleat every time I go. So it's really up to you what you're looking for, what style you're looking for, and how aggressive do you want these pleats to look. I think each project should always have its own unique look. I don't think that one style fits every application, and I think there's some value to learning how to do the same thing multiple ways so you can create different effects. Plus, once you start playing with these options, you start finding your own creativity inside it as well. Well, now that we've got all the center pleats done, the next step will be to jump onto the outside border and tackle it. There you go. Now that we've got all the bead rolls done, we're going to clean the panel and compare the two, and let's see what we got. All right guys, You just watched two different ways for us to lay out pleats. We got the quick and easy way, and we got the longer way to do it with just the stencil rolls. I hope these two give you some ideas of different ways you can lay out pleats with your bead roller, and I hope you enjoyed it, and give us your feedback in the comments. Tell us how you do it each time you go to do some bead rolling and which one you like better. And for any of the tools and products you see here, head over to eastwood.com.